Wits End kicks off today,
All right.
and I think we're ready to go. I see Three Hams and a Rose is already eagerly ready to
Knocking.
do an incredible podcast. So,
Ooh,
shall we launch?
we shall.
I'm going to hit record and start some music.
Welcome to Caching in the Northwest, the only podcast dedicated to geocaching in the Great Pacific Northwest. We're going to talk about caches and caches unique to this little corner of the country, so grab your slate and log on. It's time to go Earthcaching in the Northwest.
Well, you guessed it, listeners. Tonight's show is all about earth caching. And if we're going to talk about those things, we should bring in our resident rock monkey. Some say he has looked for cleavage in Portland, and others say he finds fossil footprints of fish. All we know is he's called Land Monkey. And
Hey.
let me say, we are so happy to have you back. Last week, we fell apart without you.
Oh, speak for yourself. Now, I never left the podcast.
That's right. As I understand it, Wits End really carried the whole show. I'm not
did.
sure that the bad cop and I really ever need to show up again.
Oh, I don't know about that. I wouldn't go that far.
Well, listeners, it is true, and I am indeed a hardcore Earth cacher. But this week, to make sure that you all are ready for the Earth Cache quest on your geocaching.com summer road trip adventure, we get even more hardcore by bringing in a show favorite, Earth Cache reviewer and geologist extreme, GeoAware, aka Gary Lewis. And Gary, thank you for joining us tonight.
Hey everybody, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
We're glad to have you here. Now, the rest of the listeners, we love hearing from you about your favorite caches and caching locations in the Northwest in your own voice each week right here on the podcast. And you also know that when we bring on a guest, we ask them to share with us. So, Gary, what is your favorite Earth cache in the Northwest?
Well, that's a really tough question. With all these wonderful volcanoes up in the Northwest, there's a nice pile of earth caches that are related to them. Probably, however, the highlight is the Rainier Summit Earth Cache. It's been there a long time. I think I actually was the person who published it way back, maybe 8-9 years ago. Not many people have found it. I think it's only 45. You've got to be pretty hardcore. It involves climbing equipment or helicopters. So that would be the one. So GCPZBX is the code. If you really want to go out and have a challenge, that would be the one to look for.
Okay.
That one has gone on the bucket list after you pointed that out, Gary. I went and took a look at the cache page on that one. Notice there's only 45 finds in the large number of years it's been out. And just looking at the photos and reading the logs, I thought, oh my goodness, this is an amazing adventure.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it really is out of the reach of the mainstream earth cacher. You've got to be pretty hardcore to want to be able to go and do that one. There are not really that many earth caches that fall into those 5 categories anywhere in the world, and that this one is within driving distance of all you Northwest folks, at least to a base camp level. That should be something that you all go aim for. For me, who lives way across in the other Portland, it's a little harder for me to get to, so I have an excuse, whereas you guys have none.
That's true. Now, I'm looking at the cache page. It was listed in 2005, and it says it's 45 miles from my home coordinates. Now, the part that gets me is it's right near the summit at 14,400 feet. It may only be 45 miles away, but it's at 14,000 feet up that's the challenge for me.
Yeah, that's challenge. It may have to go on my bucket list, but I have a hunch It'll be there for a while.
It may be the reason you kick the bucket.
Maybe. You never know. It may be the last cache I ever find. We'll see.
Well, thank you, Gary. And remember, other listeners, thank you for sharing, or you can share your favorite cache or caching location in the Northwest, and it's getting even more rewarding. Record a message from the cache itself while counting sedimentary layers. We don't mind where. We just want to hear those great caches you're out there finding. Email your audio to us at feedback@cachingNW.com or call in at 253-693-TFTC and leave a message there. Your message needs to just be about 15 seconds. That's long enough to say your name, your GC code, and the name of the cache and why you liked it. Now, if we play it on an episode, you will win some very cool swag.
Oh, I'm going to have to list mine just so I get some swag.
Yeah,
There you go.
you're not eligible.
Story of my life. It's like those contests that aren't open to Canadian. Never mind.
But I will say this. 3 Hams in a Rose says you were a rock star. And I'd like to throw that we were talking about last episode.
That is past tense, you notice.
That's past tense, but I want to put it in present tense. You are a rock star, and it really
thank you.
Our theme today.
You're all very kind, but if you spent as much time talking to yourself as I have, it wasn't all that difficult to ramble on and on until you came back to the podcast.
And then left, and then came back, and then left again.
It did make it interesting. Hey, you know what's going on? Before we jump into Earth caches, and I am anxious to get into Earth caches, not as much as certain podcast co-hosts, but I am anxious to get into them. I want to tell you about Mount Rainier has announced the Centennial Geo Tour. That includes 100 new geocaches. Kind of goes with the whole centennial theme thing, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Visit Rainier is an organization, is partnering with Mount Rainier National Park and Washington State Geocaching Association to create one more way to enjoy Mount Rainier this summer by launching the Visit Rainier Centennial Geo Tour. There's a mouthful. Now, you don't have to find them all in one day, but maybe you could add the Earth cache at the summit to the mix. Over the next 2 years, 100 new geocaches will be placed around Mount Rainier National Park and its gateway communities to celebrate the centennial of the National Park Service in 2016. Caches on the Geo Tour will be released in 4 separate series, 25 at a time, go figure, with the first release at 4 p.m. on June 13th, 2015, following a CETO event at Mount Rainier National Park. Always a good event. Always a good reason to get out. Kickoff event will be held from 3 to 5 at Whitaker Mountaineering RMI in Ashford. Passports, prizes, and giveaways will be available. There's more of that swag. The GeoTour will have its own page on geocaching.com, which will list all the geocaches, and each cache will contain a code that participants will record in a passport. That passport is downloadable on visitrainier.com. When the passport contains all 25 code words, participants can turn it in for a trackable path tag, and a new path tag will be available for each series. Get this, if a player logs all 100 caches, they can receive a commemorative geocoin. That sounds like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah,
now, for more information, for more information on the Visit Rainier Centennial Geo Tour, check out visitrainier.com or geocaching.com on June 13th, 2015. And if you don't know how to spell Rainier, it goes rainy, rainier, rainiest. Rainier is rainier. Looks the same.
Yeah, okay. I never considered it that way. Let me be honest with you. There's also an official event for the Visit Rainier Centennial Geo Tour kickoff. That is GC 5T8CD. You can join us, celebrate 100 geocaches, 100 years of National Park Service. And I think it's amazing, and it needs to be noted, some of these caches are in the national park.
Very cool.
They're also going to be around some of the bedroom communities, I guess you call it, or the gateway communities of Mount Rainier. So
that is very cool.
Yeah. So you can have an entire day of geocaching if you hit the Mount Rainier CETO in the morning and come spend the day looking for the 25 geocaches that are going to be released there around 4 o'clock on June 13th. So you can pick up passports, guidelines, see the prizes for the first series, and we'll also have free swag and a raffle for some cool stuff. Now, the Series 1 geocaches and the GeoTour page will go live at 4 p.m. right after the event presentation. And as it said, the caches will be released in 4 series of 25 during 2015 and 2016. So you put those in your passport, and you're going to get some cool stuff.
Nice.
That is nice. That's very cool. Well, listeners and viewers, on the topic of geotours, but maybe a little bit more of a somber note, those who are up here in BC more than likely heard about what's happened recently in the town of Cache Creek. Cache Creek, everybody loves the name because they're geocachers, but it is the home base of the Gold Country Geo Tour. But May 23rd, between 4 and 6 p.m., the village of Cache Creek experienced an unprecedented amount of heavy rainfall and was subsequently hit by massive floods. The interior town declared a state of emergency on the Sunday. There is a campaign underway, however, to help pay for the recovery efforts. So we're asking you to please consider helping out with that. We will include the link into our show notes. We have a few more notes about the event itself. The mayor had declared the state of emergency after the violent storm tore through the town on Saturday. There was hail, thunder, lightning, 20+ millimeters of rain per hour over the town. The Bonaparte River that runs kind of through beside the town overflowed its banks and sent a torrent of water gushing through the streets, carrying logs, silt, and debris from surrounding hills. Numbers of homes were damaged, flooded, cars lifted out of driveways. It was a really serious story. Nearly 100 people from a community of only 1,000 have registered at a temporary emergency relief headquarters. So, you know, the town of Cache Creek, which we all love, that Gold Country Geo Tour, that town's now needing our help. So if you can take a look at the link off our show notes. I can't even read you the link. It's very long and obscure, but if you go there, and please help out the folks in Cache Creek.
Certainly do. I mean, you know, this is in our backyard. These are people that we can help, that we can make an impact. So do that. Gentlemen, how was your week? I hope it was better than what we were talking about, but did you get any geocaching in, or perhaps earthcaching?
I wish I did some earthcaching. I have to say I didn't, but as I mentioned last week when I rambled, I've got some graduates in the family here, and as such we have, well, graduation parties, 'tis the season. Family coming into town, and I've been working for several weeks on a remodel to get ready for company, and I'm happy to say that while I didn't get geocaches in this week, that's not the happy part, I did finish my remodel this week, so company can now arrive and have some comfort here. So
congratulations.
I will be out caching soon.
So can we hold a geocaching event in your newly remodeled home?
Absolutely.
Okay.
A small private geocaching event.
I don't think there
And
are
actually,
private geocaching events.
Well, actually, we kind of sort of hold a geocaching event right here every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific time.
In a small portion of your home, which you can see behind you.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome. All right. Well, hey, this past weekend, us Land Monkeys hit another section of the Trans-Canada Trail Challenge series near Chilliwack Lake. We hiked about 13 kilometers, a little bit more than that, found 39 caches, then biked our way back to our truck, just over 8 kilometers. Unfortunately, no earth caches found, but I did create an earth cache last week, and I have to give a lot of kudos and thanks to our guest tonight for helping me also with my final graduation from the first course of the EarthCache Academy last week.
Hey, it's so super that somebody in the Northwest has actually gone through and completely completed an EarthCache course. But you'll be first of many, my hope is, anyway, Land Monkey. So
I hope
Hey,
so too.
for me over here on the other side of the country, you know, we were under snow for like 10 months. So now all the snow's gone. It means it's sort of like maintenance time. So I've got caches on my property that I needed to go and, you know, pull out those old books that were frozen for 10 months and now soggy and replace. But, you know, fortunately for me, I actually have Earthcaching as part of my job. So all this week has been Earthcache Academy. We've got our 4th international Earthcache events taking place in Germany in September. So there's been a considerable amount of work going on behind the scenes for things like that. And on top of that, I've been helping a lot of our volunteer reviewers this week. We've got reviewers all around the world that read through the Earthcache submissions and work with cache owners against the guidelines. And occasionally somebody finds they've got to move or go on holidays or what have you, and back into the breach I fall. That's my job, to be the backstop for folks. And I have to admit, it's a thoroughly enjoyable part of my job when I get to sit for a couple of hours, as I did this afternoon, and read through Earthcache submissions and work with people. So that's my week. It's sort of like my week every week, I will add, but it's a wonderful thing and a wonderful place to be in when you can be paid, in my case, to read Earthcache submissions. So that's my
Not
week in a
bad.
nutshell.
Well, that is
Not
a privilege, and hopefully you'll be able to read mine. I've got a great location, and I'm gathering facts together. I'm going to go and submit my first Earthcache here within the next couple of weeks. So
Awesome.
I'm excited.
Way to go.
Awesome.
And yeah, I did have private tutoring with Land Monkey because, you know, I never knew how to submit an Earthcache, and it's incredibly simple. So that's all good news. Now, listeners, don't forget to remember to write in or call us and tell us about your geocaching adventures, what you're planning, and where you've gone exploring. Now, it can be finding traditional Earth caches, or traditional caches. It can be finding Earth caches. It can be even finding some of those very rare virtual or webcam caches. Let us know what you're doing.
Absolutely. We always like hearing from listeners. Now, Gary, Earth caches, and I don't think anyone is quite as excited to have you on the show as Land Monkey is, but we are too. But just in case any of our listeners aren't familiar with the concepts behind Earth caching and maybe how you place one or even just how to find one, could you share with them, give us a little background on what Earth caching is, how it differs from traditional geocaching, and just why do we want to go out and find these there things called Earth caches?
Okay, so it all started 11 and a half years ago, when we were in discussions with the National Park Service in the US, who at that stage were dead against geocaching. And we worked with them with another on other programs. And we sat down talking to them one day, and we had been told by a member of the Geological Society who I work for that we should get involved in geocaching. So I knew nothing about geocaching other than going out and finding my first cache. But we sat down with the national parks people and said, you know what is it about geocaching that you guys don't like? And they come up with a whole number of things, but most of them were based around one very simple management tool, and that is protection through obscurity. And what that basically means is the National Park Service, the Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, and other agencies like that all around the world have many, many sites that they protect by a simple fact that nobody knows where they are. Then you have a million people out with their GPS units wanting to go geocaching. They stumble across a neat site. Hey, let's take everybody there. And they publish the latitude and longitude of this site that they've been protecting for 100 years. So the National Park Service basically said, we've got to stop this process. So myself and in a meeting with the National Park Service and with key folks at geocaching.com, Jeremy and Elias and Brian sat down and said, you know, what we really need to do is come up with something that is sort of like a virtual, and virtual caches were sort of on the way out then, but met the needs of the National Park Service, and that is you need to get approval by the land manager to be able to place a cache. Once we could get the land manager's approval with that, then the rest of it sort of blossomed out of that. Now, we're the Geological Society, so these sites are geology-based. So they are geology-based. They don't have a container. Can't leave a container in a national park, considering to be littering and actually against the law. So we've got geology-based, no container, not only in national parks, anywhere that a land manager will allow them to be placed. And the treasure, if you like, instead of it being trinkets in a container, is learning something about the Earth when you visit. So the whole concept of Earth caches is you visit a site, and instead of signing a logbook in a container, you undertake a logging task that's related to the geology of the site that proves that you have actually learnt something. That's how we started. I have placed the very first Earth cache. It's on a headland in Australia, in a national park in Australia. It still exists today, Earthcache 1. It's a geology tour of a headland, which is sort of sweet. I've then placed the next 2 in Colorado, and I think we must be now over 20,000 active Earth caches. There's actually been more published because they get archived just like any other cache type, but we're up to 20,000, had 5 million people visit those Earth caches in the last 11 years. So that's the history of the program.
That's amazing. And Land Monkey, I don't think you found all 20,000 yet.
Working on it.
He's getting close.
So, Gary, what has the Geological Society found to be the biggest barriers for people like me who want to get involved in Earth caching?
Well, absolutely the biggest barrier is people's confidence in earth science, in geology background, for both answering questions when they visit an Earth cache or developing an Earth cache. So the biggest problem is just people's confidence. You know, the last earth science that some people did was probably when they were in 8th or 9th grade at school. So if you're sort of my age, and you know, it's been, gosh, 30, 40 years since you were back then, you know, people really feel like they need to get that boost of confidence so they can answer the questions correctly.
I think that's a really valid point. I think if I look at Mrs. Land Monkey, she doesn't not like Earth caches. What she doesn't like is being presented with having to learn something in a situation where she doesn't feel comfortable learning it. So, you know, I think there's probably a lot of people who fall into that same boat, and I think they're just missing out on the experience and don't know about it. I mean, I really do love Earth caching, and Gary, I've been waiting on bated breath since we spoke at the 3IEE event in Duncan, BC last fall, and you hinted at the launch of the Earthcache Academy then. So, can you tell our listeners exactly what the Earthcache Academy is? Did we lose Gary?
We might have lost Gary.
We may have lost Gary.
He's looking very, very still. This is the point in the show when I start to ramble, and I'll tell you about. Oh wait, no, I have other people this week.
Well, while we wait for Gary, let's look at some Q&A. This one's from Brylang, and it fits exactly in with what we were talking about. He says the biggest barrier to finding a spot to put out, an Earth cache. I was going to do one on erosion arcs along the Fraser River, but the city of Abbotsford has repaired them, so there's nothing left to see.
Oh, that's a problem, at least for Earth caching.
And I think Gary is back.
Gary's back.
The joys of technology.
Oh,
Isn't
yes.
it great?
So
It's a long wire between the Northwest and the...
It really is, yes.
Some
a
farmer
lot of
probably
copper.
pulled the cable up, you know.
We've got it stretched pretty thin.
Right. So you probably lost me midstream.
Gary-
there. I apologize.
Okay, well, where I was, Gary, is I was just asking if you could tell our listeners a little bit more about the Earthcache Academy, what it is, and what they can expect from it.
So as I was saying before, it's a lack of confidence is the biggest hurdle for people. So what we decided we would do is take our geology knowledge and instead of doing the training that we normally do that are to undergraduates and graduates in geology and school teachers, take that and put it into the hands of the geocachers. So we have got this online academy called the Earthcache Academy where people can go and do simple geology courses that are geared to give them the background information and the confidence for them to go out and visit earth caches and create earth caches. So it's just been launched, so it's in its early days, but the whole game is to raise people's confidence by getting them to do these courses at their own pace online.
Wow, how exciting to have an academy of training courses dedicated specifically to earth caches. I think that's phenomenal. And I guess if we can't find Land Monkey for the next few weeks, we know exactly where to look for him, right? So, excuse me, what kind of courses are currently being offered through the Earthcache Academy?
So at the moment we've got 3 courses on offer. We've got a course on geologic time, so how old is the Earth and how do we know and how do geologists break it up and what's the difference between absolute time and relative time and what does it mean when someone's talking about the Permian, So it's there's a course on geologic time and it's the very first course that anybody who starts really should do, and what's more, it is free. So you can go and do that course to start with. Then we have 2 courses that are now up. One is on fossils. What are fossils? What do they look like? What are the major types? Learn to identify them. And the 3rd course we've got there is about earthquakes. So it's about what is the difference between a magnitude scale and a modified Michaelis scale, and what's an epicenter, and what's a focus, and what's a fault, and what are the different types of faults that you can see in road cuttings. So they're the 3 courses we've got at the moment, and we're adding courses at roughly about 1 a month at the moment. So.
Now, relative time is not like when my relatives are staying with me, and it seems like a long time, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Know the feeling.
That's deep time.
For me. Yes, Wits End knows all about relative time.
Yes, I have relatives in my home right now.
Yeah. Nice. So we've got the 3 courses, and you've discussed a little bit about them. But is there anything that our listeners should do, Gary, to prepare for these courses?
Not really. These courses are, you go in completely cold and you come out an earth caching expert. Well, that's the goal. So when you turn up to the Earthcache Academy, so it's earthcacheacademy.org, easy to find. You undertake a course, go try the free course first, the geologic time course. And the course is split up into 4 sections. The very first thing we do is that we get you to do a quiz. Not one where you've got to look things up. We're just trying to say, well, what is it you already know? Because everybody knows something. So quiz yourself. No one sees the results other than you. Go and do this quiz to find out what you know. Then after the quiz, the next phase is the learning phase, and there's a number of lessons that you go through. There's actually a handbook that's on the first page. You can download all of the lessons if you want to, have something to read while you're commuting or avoiding the relatives by being out in the doghouse. So it doesn't all have to be done online, but there's the lessons are split up online. It's much nicer graphics when they're online. It's in color, etc. Then once you've read through all that, you then do or sit a test. And the test is asking you similar questions to what you did in the quiz. So now you can actually compare how much you've learned by reading through the lessons. Then there's a next step. But not everybody needs to go the next step. If you're just a person that wants to learn about the Earth and go out and understand Earth caches better, then you follow through to that stage. The next stage is the apply stage, and that is where you go and actually create an Earth cache that is based on the lessons that you've just learned. So that's quiz, learn, test, and apply. They're the stages that are in every Earthcache Academy course.
So Gary, I've worked my way through the first course and I loved it. The content gets, pardon the pun, but deep into time. But at the same time, I found it was really readily digestible if you pace yourself through it. And the way that it's structured, as you say, in the units, it allows you to pace yourself and take a break from it and not have to get too intense into it at any particular point. Overall, I found it was a great experience. Now, you've just talked, there's 2 levels of completion. Can you maybe explain those for us?
Sure. So if you go through, do the quiz, then you do the learning, and then you do the test, and you actually score on the test, it's like 70% or greater, you get a certificate. And that's a certificate that says you've done this online course and you've passed the course, and the certificate gets sent. You get a message with a link to the certificate that you print off. It has your name on it and the name of the course. So that's the first step. My guess is, and it's certainly the case to point, the majority of people do that. They then got the knowledge and the confidence, and they don't take the next step. The next step is that apply. Once you have gone through, you've got your certificate, then you go and set up an Earthcache based on the lesson that you've learnt, and then you complete a form that has got the name of the Earthcache, the location, the date you placed it, and Jay and I worked out a little idiosyncrasy within how you do the dates. Once you do that, you then actually get an icon. So it's an electronic icon you can put in your geocaching profile or on your website. The only way you get that icon level is to create an Earthcache related to that lesson. So the first learning part provides you a certificate. The apply part provides you with an icon.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to have to go and check that out and at least complete the certificate level, because I've got a little room behind me on the wall here to place at least one more certificate.
All right.
And I love that Land Monkey has already jumped ahead and done the research and taken a course. I'm not surprised by that. But I also noted, and you mentioned, that there is a free course to start with, and I think I speak for all geocachers when I say that we like free stuff.
Sure.
But there are other courses you mentioned that have a small fee. Can you tell us, where does that money go when we pay that small fee to take the course?
Right. Well, as you can imagine, these things are not free to develop. Not only the courses, but just paying for websites and what have you, and we need to be able to recover the costs of that. However, 100% of the fees that people pay to do the other courses, and they're not expensive, they're less than $5 US to do a course, and that 100% of that money goes back into the Earthcache Academy. So it's not paying for staff time, it's paying for courses. Once we get enough courses done, then we'll actually start developing some materials that we can send out to people who get to that icon level. So we're looking at pins and badges and things that people who reach the icon level can actually achieve. Not unlike what we did with the Earthcache Masters program, where people visited Earthcaches, logged with us, and we sent them a pin. That's the plan. So the courses are not expensive, really, for what they are. It's less than what you pay for a geocoin. It is probably less than what you pay for a path tag. And you end up with a wonderful experience that's going to give you confidence, that's going to help you in caching and beyond. It's going to make you a better citizen, especially in the Northwest, where this geology is so active and so dynamic, that having a greater understanding and confidence will actually give you, I hope, a greater understanding of decisions that are getting made up in the Northwest by your decision makers who probably don't have such a great understanding of the earth science. So I think this Earthcache Academy is great on many levels, obviously for geocaching, but beyond as well.
Wow,
And,
that's fantastic.
Gary, I am a proponent of lifelong learning. I love this idea. This, sounds like a great course, and Land Monkey's nodding his head, so we know how much he loves geology. So this is obviously a good course, and it's something I'm going to look into as well this summer. Because, to be honest with you, one of the reasons I'm intimidated by Earthcaches is I know so little about geology. I know they're going to ask me something, and I'm going to go, I don't know what that means at all. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be looking for. So, while I consider myself a lifelong learner, there are some areas I'm very weak in. So this is one of the areas I'm going to take a personal effort and increase my knowledge. So, Gary, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this evening and learning about the EarthCache Academy. So if our listeners want to learn more about this, sign up, give it a go, where would you direct them?
I would send them directly to earthcacheacademy.org, O-R-G on the end. That's where you'll find the courses and find out more information. If that's too difficult, a long word for you to start with, then just earthcache.org will actually take you to the main Earthcaching page where there's a direct link to the Academy.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much, Gary. And
Hey, you're
Gary,
welcome.
I want to also give a special thank you to your patience in helping me work through the little technical glitch we found with the EarthCache Academy.
Always pushing the envelope, you are, Land Monkey. So it's wonderful to test it with a person who is patient with me, but I know that if you can break it, then chances are the majority of other people won't.
He's uniquely skilled.
There you go. It's those opposable thumbs. All right. Well, hey, before we start wrapping up the show, why don't we address a little bit of the activity we've got in the Q&A tonight?
Certainly. Let's start off with 3 hams in a rows. And I thought this was interesting. He said, I've done all 10 of the Earth caches on Maui in April. The favorite was GC4ZA40. My wife and I did this cache in swimsuits, as we had to swim across the river, then climb 2 waterfalls, one by knotted rope, and the other on a ladder, in bamboo forest. It took 3 hours.
That's
Wow.
epic.
Isn't that epic?
If I ever make it to Maui, I'm going to have to do those.
Exactly.
I don't know what to say with that one. It worries me they're climbing ropes, but it's the doing it in the swimsuit and climbing a knotted rope. That is not something I particularly would want anyone taking photographs of me doing. Let me just say that.
Oh, let's see. We have more from Wet Coaster. What's in? Do you want to read that one?
Where he says, I think he's referring to my talking to myself. He said that talking to yourself is okay. However, losing an argument with yourself is not okay.
But he goes on to
No
say
comment there.
more about Earth caching.
Oh, I didn't see that one. That was down past my scroll. Is that the one that looks to me like they would help out completing Earth caches? I don't know whether I'll actually publish an Earth cache, but learning is good. And I would tend to agree, because I'm in the same camp as you, Bad Cop, where I try to be a lifelong learner and learn a little something new, well, every day.
Mm-hmm. Getting a little smarter every day, are you?
I try, and that's a great podcast to watch, too.
Well, I think to Gary's point, you don't have to actually do the apply section and create the Earth cache.
Right.
For me, the timing worked out perfectly when I had finished the course. I had started an Earth cache already on South Pender Island, but I was struggling with the theme. And after I read the course, I thought, oh, this is the perfect application for this location. So I just changed a few little things and was able to proceed with that section.
Nice.
So it worked really well, which was why I was also able to get it published the same day I finished the course, which is probably not normally going to be the situation.
You are exceptional, as always. We had a question in there, too. Should I get that from Dora Moore?
Sure.
She wants
Go
to know
for
if
it.
there's time limits on the courses. Can you answer that, Gary?
None whatsoever. So once you sign up, you can do the course at your own leisure through the whole process. You can even go back and redo lessons. And in fact, there's not even a time limit on doing the test. So,
Oh, nice.
you can really take your time at the process. We're not trying to be schoolmasters here with large sticks to beat people with. This is learn at your own pace. We really want you to learn, and not everybody learns in the same way. So we've tried to set it up that people can just cruise along, come back for it if they want to, print it out if they want to. Sure, you got to sit a test, but really, it's like 20 questions. They're multiple choice. Some of them have photographs in them. So, like it's this is not a daunting thing. This is a fun learning activity you can do.
So Gary, on the topic of time limits, I did notice that when you're sitting the test, the final test for the chapter or for the module, that it was timed. I think it was 30 minutes to write it, but it is open book, from that perspective. So.
Right, and to be honest with you, 30 minutes to do 20 multiple choice questions is plenty of time because they're not difficult. They really are not difficult questions. Now, I say that, I set the questions, right? So they really aren't, and to be honest with you, just by reading the learning material, you should breeze through that literally within minutes.
Wet Coaster asks, is this open to Canadian residents?
Sure. If it's good enough for you to get good medications and things up there and a medical system that works better than down here, you're welcome to use the EarthCache Academy. Oh, that comes from someone bitter and twisted from another country, right?
Gary, you're hitting a little too close to home there. We're going to move on to another question.
My Canadian friends are very welcome to be involved, as is around the world. And in fact, we have some of the courses currently in translation into other languages. So.
Great!
Excellent.
Okay.
So I'll grab one here. Dora Moore asks or comments that it's not just the learning that holds people back, and I think she's addressing my earlier comment about the value of taking the EarthCache Academy org courses. She said it's also the process of answering the questions, by which she means the questions that people pose in their Earth caches. She comments that her significant other always asks her to submit the answers for quote unquote us. So I guess that's I don't know, it'd be good for her to maybe clarify that a little bit. I think she's asking about the electronic process of submitting your answers to the cache owners, etc. But while we're waiting for her to clarify that, she does have another question. And Gary, I think you've probably clarified this, but maybe people are still a little confused on it. She says, I was wondering more about the paid courses. If I register, get distracted by life in general, and come back to it 2 months later, can I continue with it where I left off?
Absolutely. The course has no time limit, so you can take 5 years to do the course if that's what you want to do. So once you have registered for the course, there's absolutely no time limit in the process at all.
Very good.
Cool.
Very good. The last piece of Q&A we're going to get to tonight comes from Three Hams and a Rose, and he's talking about the Earth caches he did in Maui. And he says Cuttlefish's Earth cache at Wreck Beach, the local nudist beach, is also a favorite. And I'm thinking it's not for the geological formations, but I could be wrong. Who knows? I've never been to that beach.
Could be, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's probably no waterfall climbing there.
So I can
plenty of
clarify
places to hide a cache, however.
I can clarify a point here. That actually, Wreck Beach is at the University of British Columbia, so that's up here in Vancouver. That's all right.
I assumed. You have a nudist beach in Vancouver?
Yes, we do. Cuttlefish is a local geocacher up this way, and that is a interesting Earth cache. It's actually a really well done Earth cache. It is, but it is technically listed as clothing optional. So you just have to be aware if you're taking your kids there that they may see things that may scar them for life.
Can I jump in here and do a quick plug for another EarthCache program? They are our EarthCache GeoVentures that we run every year, where we take groups of people to exotic locations around the world to do not only earth caching but geocaching as well. At the end of last year, we took them to the Big Island of Hawaii and lived on an active volcano for a week and traveled around, and people visited earth caches and geocaches and not only traditionals. There was some puzzle caches and some webcam caches. So it was a really nice selection, and it's a wonderful place. This year we are actually going to Iceland. We've got a group of people going across to Iceland for a week to go caching. And next year, and it will probably be in summer rather than at the end of the year, we're going to go back to the big island of Hawaii. So if people out there are interested in traveling with myself and with GeoAware HQ, Matt Dawson, to go and with the company of other geocachers and see and visit some of the most spectacular earth caches anywhere in the United States, then come join us in Hawaii next year. There'll be more details put up on our website, on the earthcache.org website, in the next couple of months about the trip for next year.
Cool.
So, Gary, just to be clear, I mean, because now you've got my attention, wow, live on a volcano for a week? Yeah.
Absolutely.
This is all through earthcache.org?
Yeah, earthcache.org. If you go to the earthcache.org website and look for the events and activities menu and pull down, you'll see details about the Earthcache GeoVentures. So the Hawaii one is very spectacular. There's some really neat stuff going over there at the moment. You will see the glow of lava. In fact, we go almost every night and people see the glow of lava where there's a lava lake at the summit, and we literally stay, as the crow flies, less than 3 miles away from that. So it's very, very, very neat indeed. So Earthcache Academy, go do it. Learn about this stuff and then come with us and actually live on an active and geocache on not only one active volcano, on the largest active volcano on the planet. So
I'm excited.
Cool. That's amazing.
We may have to do a podcast episode from there.
There you go.
I think we can probably find a way to arrange that. And Gary, I also wanted to point out that Dora Moore, who's been listening to the show and giving us some feedback, is signed up for the Iceland trip. So she's very stoked and excited for that.
Excellent. Unfortunately, I don't get to Iceland. I send Matt. So Matt Dawson is GeoAware HQ. He's my partner in crime for most of these things. Matt is now the Iceland expert, and I'm the Hawaii expert. But
is it because he has the extra facial hair to keep him warm in Iceland?
Absolutely. you need it in Iceland. Iceland's a wonderful place. I've been there myself, and I've been caching in Iceland. It's unlike anywhere else on the planet. It's very spectacular as well. In a couple of years' time, we'll do it to Australia and visit Earthcache 1, the very first Earthcache. That's the plan.
Let's
so
go on that.
Watch this space. That'll be 2017. We'll be in Australia.
Very cool. And Gary, any of these events or new things that are coming up, whether they're with Earthcache events, GeoVentures, or Earthcache Academy or anything like that, always please feel free to reach out to us and let us know. We'd be happy to share that with our listeners.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, if people want to know the details on a day-to-day basis, the best way is to join the Earthcaching Facebook page, because we post things up there on a very regular basis, and there's normally some good discussions taking place on there. That is probably the best way to do it. We're trying to avoid Canadian anti-spam laws by sending fast emails out to people. So join us on Facebook, and we avoid the spam laws, and you get the up-to-date information of what's happening in the Earthcache world.
Well, Gary, that's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
Because we always end the show with, how you can find us out on social media. So we can find you on Facebook. Where else could we find you?
Earthcache.org is probably the go-to place.
Perfect. Land Monkey, where can we find you?
So if you go to the Twitters, we're at LandMonkeyGC. On Facebook, it's Team Land Monkey, and on YouTube, if you search Land Monkey, you will find us.
Oh. And why wouldn't you search Land Monkey?
And Mr. End, what about you?
I am Wits End. I'm Twitter, on Facebook, on LO, on geocaching, all the above, and probably a few more if you just Google around Wits End. There I be.
And, of course, you can find me on the Twitters at CachingNW, on Facebook at CachingNW, and of course, my favorite, Google Plus. That's google.com/plus CachingNW. So thank you for taking the time to listen to this here episode of Caching in the Northwest. Don't forget that you can be part of the show. Call 253-693-TFTC and leave us a comment, correct Earthcache answers, or questions any time of the day or night. Of course, you can email us, feedback@CachingNW.com. Also, your support helps keep the quality shows coming, so if you like this show, please click the PayPal button on the CachingInTheNW.com website. This show's licensed under a Creative Commons Attributions 3.0 license, copyright 2015 by Chris Antonello. Thanks, folks. This was a fun show.
It was fun. Go out
Thanks
and
for listening.
Awesome. Feel like I can go to sleep now, right?
I bet.
And we are clear of the recording. We are still live on the air, so anybody can hear us.
Careful what you
But Gary,
say.
anytime you need to head off to bed, we completely understand. We really appreciate you staying up late to talk to us.
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah.
it's very much appreciated, and with Earthcache Academy and Earthcache GeoVentures and everything that's taking place in the Earthcache world, you know, the biggest issue is letting people know. So podcasts are, and what you guys are doing in the Northwest is really important to us to be involved. So I'm just delighted to get the invite. So thank you to Lamb Monkey for even remembering that I exist. So it's
How could I forget?
You're welcome back anytime. Dora Moore says there are 3 cachers from the Metro Vancouver area going to Iceland just this year.
That's
awesome.
exciting. I wish I was one of them.
well, save up, come to Hawaii with us next year.
Yeah, I was going to say, you said your compatriot was the Iceland expert and you had to be the Hawaii expert, and really that's not a bad expert to be.
Well, you know, I used to be the expert of both, and then we just worked out it was crazy. My family are sort of saying, you know what, we want to see you in summer.
Now, isn't it true that Greenland has more ice and Iceland has more green?
Okay, so the thing is, Iceland is an Anglo-Saxonized way of using the name of the island. The native Icelanders call it Island, I-S-L-A-N-D, which is actually the island, not Iceland at all. And it was Anglo-Saxons that heard the Island and changed it to Iceland. But you are correct. Greenland has more ice than Iceland, but Greenland was named to try to con people to go there, you know, trying to make it sound nice.
Well, they were actually sending cons there, weren't they?
That's right. Three Hymns and a Rose asks, where was you? Where are you broadcasting from? And I know you're on the east coast of the U.S., is that correct?
All right. So I live in a small country town in the state of Maine. So I'm not right on the coast. I'm gosh, like 25, 26 miles inland from the coast. So that's where I work from. I actually telecommute. I work from home, which is a wonderful thing that we can do.
So
you see sunrise before we do.
Yeah.
That's right.
You kind of beta test the day for us to make sure it's okay.
Right, and if we wait a little longer, it'll be rising here.
So that's why the first Earthcache mega event was in Maine, correct?
Correct. It was here for a number of reasons, but me being here was a big one, you know. But yeah, and so. Number 1 was here in Maine. Number 2 was in Utah. Correct. Number 3 was up in on Vancouver Island. 4 is in Germany. 5 will be in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, okay.
And my hope is that 6 will be in Australia, and will be associated with that. Earthcache GeoVenture to Australia, so people who go on that will end up going to the event as well.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
So Denver is really going to be the hub of geocaching next year, eh? Because it's getting Geo Woodstock as well next year.
Right. So why are we doing Denver? Why are we going anywhere sexy? And That's cruel. I lived in Colorado.
I have friends that live in Denver. They would argue that it is. So, yeah.
Right. so the reason,
pretty lake town.
Yeah.
yeah, and the reason is twofold. First thing is there's some historic earth caches that are just outside of Denver. You know, like the very first earth cache in outside of Australia is still there. It's called Micah City, and it's just outside of Denver. So there's one good reason. But what we're going to do is we're going to hold the EarthCache event in association with GSA's major conference. So EarthCachers can come along and do the EarthCache event, and then they will be invited to go into the Geological Society conference, which starts that evening and runs into the next day, and visit all the exhibitor booths. And there are people there selling amazing mineral specimens and fossil specimens as well as other things. And we thought that might be a neat thing for geocachers to do, to actually see the science and see the scientists who are behind what happens in the geoscience world. Wow. So that's the reason it's in Denver next year.
That is very cool. We did hear back from Dora Moore, and she said that it may have to do with confidence. Her significant other and her discuss the answers, but he hates to submit them himself. So I think she's getting back to that whole thing about the process. I guess it's also just that personal accountability for setting the answers in. But I think, again, that's an area where the EarthCache Academy can really help out, just help build that confidence.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's no such thing as a wrong answer when it comes to the earth caches, and it really stems from the whole fact, if you ask two geologists' opinion, you get 5 responses. So and it's very true for earth caches. If they are good logging tasks, there really is not a definitive answer. There's a range of answers that relate to the way people perceive what they're seeing at the site, and that's why earth caches are so special, because people are learning at different levels. Every person that visits, whether it's a person with no geology background, a geo kid who's learning something there, all the way through to somebody who's a college professor, everybody will learn by visiting the earth caches. That's why earth caching is so wonderful. It's not just a container and sign a logbook. It's not just another guardrail. It's something special.
No, I think you're exactly right.
Very exciting.
So, 3 Hams in a Row asks, is it a requirement for all caching in the Northwest hosts and guests to have facial hair?
Well, yeah.
And obviously the answer is yes. So, Dora Moore is going to be on in a couple of weeks.
That's right.
I'm just kidding.
All right, Dora Moore. Yeah.
Probably not what she wanted to hear.
That is funny. And that's probably where to leave that particular conversation right about there.
Oh, okay.
I'm not touching it.
And Dora Moore's no longer on the docket.
We have one less fan than we had last week.
Yeah. We do that a lot, actually.
Come for the geocaching, stay for the offensiving?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Oh, dear, that's funny. Awesome. Well,
sounds good.
We had a wrap. It's 10 o'clock, so what does that make it? 1 in the morning for you, Gary?
Yeah, I'm trying not to look and think about that.
Thanks for bringing up that unpleasant subject.
That's right. The people whose earth caches I'm reading their submissions tomorrow morning, I might treat them better,
Good thing mine's already done.
Right. I don't know who published that one. I might need to go and rescind it. Yeah.
Oh, 3 Hams in a Row said, start growing it, Dora Moore. And she responds by saying, I think I've just been challenged again.
That's our resident bear wrestler.
Yes. She has wrestled a bear, so I may be able to grow facial hair, but I've not wrestled a bear, so.
And awesome. I'd much rather grow facial hair than wrestle a bear, I think.
I think so. I know so.
Okay. Good night, all.
Nighty-night,
All right.
73.